Hi folks, today we're going to work on page 7, 8, and 9 of your Dulcimer primer book. We're going to work on our first chords, alright? When you look at page 7, I talk at the top of the page about the fact that through the whole book you're going to have the option of either playing the tablature, which is the melody, also known as the lead part. It's the part the singer would be singing. That's the tablature when you're playing the melody up and down the neck, okay? The other job that you could take in this book, and in any situation when you're playing with a group of people, is to be the rhythm player. The rhythm player is going to hold down the chords and do the boom diddy stuff that we talked about on page 6, all right? So on page 7 I introduce you to the A chord. Now the difference between a single note and a chord, this is a single note, okay? A chord is several notes played at the same time that all harmonize with each other, okay? All right, so we're going to learn our A chord. Now, on the diagram here on page 7, I ask you to put your pointer finger, your 1, that's what the 1 means, on the bass string first fret, and your third finger on the melody string, okay? And there's nothing on your middle string. So I've got my middle finger kind of up in the air, but that's exaggerated. Again, I do that kind of stuff just so you can see it on the video. Normally my finger would be down like this, really relaxed, and it would look almost like it's fretting that fret, but it's not. So I'm going to exaggerate it and bring it up like this, okay? Now that's my A chord. When I strum it, I strum across all 3 strings. Now here's the really cool exercise that I invented, and I use it with every instrument that I play. I have my students do this over and over again. The open, stretch, and repeat. So you open your fingers, stretch them, bring them up, and then put them very slowly right back to where they were. Okay, this is muscle memory exercise. You probably heard me say it before. I'll say it a million more times. If every time you play your A chord and you're practicing it with this open hand, stretch, and put it back down, if you do it like this, there's my A chord. There's my A chord. That's what you're telling your hands you want to do. You want them to do every time you play an A chord. You don't want that. You want your hands to go right where you want them to go, up high on that fret, okay? So you want to open, stretch, and then slowly place those fingers exactly where you want them to go. And you want to do that so many times that it becomes automatic. I cannot stress how important working on muscle memory is, especially when you're working on your chord shapes, okay? You do that over and over and over again, and your fingers are going to know where to go when they play their A chord, okay? So that's your A chord. Now, you also have a modification if that is difficult for you, or if you have any issues with your left hand whatsoever. You could also make an A chord by playing 4, 4, and 4, okay? Song all the way across the 4th fret. Now you can use a noter to do that if you're using a noter because of any hand issues you might have, or you can take one finger. If you take one finger, you got to make sure you're pressing down nice and hard, okay? If you got all 3 fingers, you want them to be up on the high side of that fret as well. So once again, this is a modification. This is an A chord that's a little bit easier to play for you. Okay, so you've got this A chord, the 1, 0, 1, and then you've got the 4, 4, 4 A chord. All right, I'd like for you to work on both of them actually, get to know them both. All right, once again, you want to do your open and repeat exercises where you put your fingers right where you want them to go each time. All right, now some of you, if you're using one finger to lay across those 4s, you might say that the crooks of your knuckles and stuff like that are getting caught where the strings are, so you're not getting a good pressing, you're not getting a good, what am I looking for? Pressure. That's the word I'm looking for. You're not getting pressure, and the strings are falling in the grooves. Try to adjust your finger a little bit, and remember that the more you do this, the more you're going to build up calluses. Calluses are easier to, it's easier to press down on the strings, it feels better, A, but B, it's a tougher surface, and it's more efficient, okay? All right, so for now, in these exercises that we're going to do over the next couple pages, I'm going to use my 101A, okay? The second chord I want you to learn on this page is the G chord. And when you play your G chord, I think I would prefer you to put your middle finger on the middle string, 1st fret, and your thumb on the 3rd fret of the bass string, like that, okay? You've got a diagram there on page 7 that shows you that. So the only one I really want to make sure the finger you're using is the thumb. I want you using that thumb on your melody string, okay? Once again, open your hand, put your fingers slowly back down on the neck so that they go exactly where you want them to go. Don't rush them down there and then have to adjust them. Please do this exercise. I promise you it's worth your time, okay? So that's my G chord, and I'm going to do that over and over again until my fingers have built up the muscle memory. And when I say play a G, my hand goes boom right there. Okay? The modification for the G, once again, if you've got any issues with your left hand and you can't fret, or you've got some arthritis or whatever, or if you're using a noter, you want to go across the 3rd fret. Okay? All 3 frets across those strings. Okay? 3rd fret. You can play it with this one finger like I showed you, or you can play it with your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd finger like that. Okay? Here's what your G sounds like, the 0, 1, 3. Okay? Here's what your 3, 3, 3 sounds like. All right? Those are both perfectly fine G chords. All right? Let's switch over to Dink, turn the page. We're going to go to page 8 and work this real quick. Okay, I want to turn my metronome down to probably around 69. That's 66. That's going to be pretty good. Okay. Now on the first exercise, we strum our A chord 4 times and then we rest 4 beats. Then we strum our D and we rest 4 beats. I'm going to do that line twice for you. Okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. A. Rest, 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 rest. D. Rest, 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 rest. A. Rest, 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 rest. D. And I want you to keep doing that exercise over and over again. You can stop this video and replay it. All right, now on the second little line there that we've got on page 8, we're going directly from our A to our D without the rests in between. Okay, I'm going to count us off. 1, 2, 3, 4. A. D. Back to A without missing a beat with that metronome. Now, your metronome at home, you can slow it down. As a matter of fact, I'm guessing that might be a little fast right now for you. Okay, here's a tip. If that's too fast for you right now, go every other beat. Let me show you what that'll sound like. And there's no shame in playing this slowly. You get big, big, big bonus points from me if you're willing to play slowly like I'm about to show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. See what I mean? I'm going every other beat now. And that gives me a little more time. You should probably do it like this first. And then we go back to A. The key to becoming a really good musician is having patience with yourself. That's so important. Okay? Now there we practiced our A and our D. If we look at line 3 on page 8, we're going to play from our D, rest, 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 to our G. Okay? Here we go. I'm going to go back to the first tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. D. Rest, 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 rest. G. See how I have my fingers ready? Rest, 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 rest. D. Get my fingers ready. 2, 3, 4. G. Back and forth. Okay? All right, now the very last line on page 8. We're going from D to G, back to D, into A without missing any beats. All right? Let's try it going halftime on this. So we'll go every other beat like we did when we went slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, set your own personal metronome and do that exercise over and over again. I guarantee it will help. Let's double time that one time before we leave page 8. Okay, so we're going to do a strum for every beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very good. Let's look at page 9, all right? Page 9, we're going to go back to our boom diddy pattern that we practiced on page 6, I believe, is when we learned the boom diddy pattern. Yes. So at the top of page 9 it says, review the boom diddy strumming pattern using each chord. So I want you to take some time. We're going to play the D boom diddy pattern on the D chord. We're going to play that over and over again here. Let's see what that tempo is going to sound like. Boom, diddy, boom, diddy, boom, diddy. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this up a little bit faster. And we're going to go halftime on it. So it's at 108 now. And yes, I'm going faster, but we're going to play slower. What does that mean? Well, I'm using each one of those ticks as an eighth note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and boom, diddy, boom, diddy, boom. So you're going to have a tick, a blank tick after the booms, right? To keep you in time. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. So count this with me. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3. Go ahead and swing your hands with me. Here we go. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and away, back away, back away. The hand never stops. That motion. Boom, diddy, boom. Say that with me. Boom, diddy, boom. While you're moving your hand. Boom, diddy, boom, diddy. I'm so bossy. Diddy, boom. You'll get used to it. Diddy, boom, diddy, boom. Said no one ever in my family. Diddy. Okay, now let's look at line 1 and 2. It starts with an A chord for 4 measures and then a D chord for 4 measures on the boom diddies. Okay, here we go. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and boom, diddy, boom, diddy. Second A, diddy, boom, diddy. Third measure, diddy, boom, diddy. Fourth measure, diddy, boom. Here comes the D chord and D, diddy, boom, diddy. Second D. That exercise. Here's the second A. Diddy, boom, diddy. Third measure. Get ready for your D. And 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3. Last measure, 2 and 3, 4 and. Okay. You got this, you got this. Now if that's hard for you, you need to go back to our last lesson and just work on your ditties. Boom diddy pattern, okay? Do that until you can do it no more, until you're boom diddied out. Okay. The second exercise on page 9, we're going from our G chord to our D chord, just like we did in the first exercise, but now we're using our G. Okay, remember, if you need to do your muscle memory exercise a little bit before you do this, that's a good idea. Get that G chord ready to fall right down in place. Okay, here we go. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and G, diddy, boom, diddy. Second G. Third G. right? Okay, let's go on to the last exercise. Now we're combining all three chords. D for 2 measures, G for 2 measures, D again for 2 measures, and A for 2 measures. You'll notice I'm putting those D's in there to give you a little time to get ready for the next chord that's going to fall. Okay, here we go. 1, keep yourself relaxed. Don't forget to keep yourself relaxed. Don't be like, "Argh!" Okay, that's going to slow you down and stress you out. Keep thinking good thoughts up here. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and D. Second D. Get ready for your G. And G. Keep that wrist light. Here's our D and D. Get ready for your A. And A. We're going to repeat. Here we go. The whole boom diddy thing, we're asking you to do 2 things at once. We're asking you to change the chords, actually 3. You got to follow the music with your eyes. You got to have your left hand changing the chords, and then you got your right hand that you want to be on automatic pilot. Okay? It's not going to happen overnight, folks. You got to work really hard on this boom diddy pattern to make it be and feel automatic. All right? I know you can do this. We just need to go slowly. You need to remember to stop these videos and practice and restart them. Okay? I'll see you next time. We'll hit page 10 and a few others. Thanks so much for hanging out with me.